All right. As Kelly said, my name is Captain Rick Miller. I'm the Department Chair for Marine Transportation. Just a little bit about myself. I've been at Maine Maritime almost about 15 years now, and I teach as well as oversee the department happenings. So I teach a couple of navigation classes and two different meteorology classes, a basic one and advanced meteorology we call weather routing. Right now, looks like I'm on a ship, which virtually I guess I am, and that is our navigation training vessel. So one of our classes, terrestrial navigation or coastal piloting, we actually get students out for about 4 hours on this vessel, and you can see multiple chart tables. So it's just one of the things we do that's very hands-on in the department as we present our academic plan. We've got a couple of students, one from our Vessel Operations and Technology program, and one from the Marine Transportation Operations program. I'll let them take a minute to introduce themselves. So let's start with Tad. You'll have to unmute yourself there, Tad.
All right, I think I got it. Hi, my name's Tad Bliss. I'm a junior in the VOT program. I'm from Underhill, Vermont. And yeah, been going strong with it. George?
I got you, Tad. Hi, everybody. I'm George Albert. I'm from Powhatan, Virginia. Yeah, I'm a junior in the Marine Transportation Operations program. I am also the student ambassador, so all of the admissions things, I run that. I have also the regimental senior striker, which means that when the incoming freshmen are coming in for those 10 days of training before the school year actually happens, I'm one of the members in charge of planning that all out. I'm also part of the SSOP program with the ROTC unit, so we can talk about a little bit more about that. And I'm also, I just got it this past semester, a advanced diver. I got that from the school.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to try a little technology here and switch over to sharing the screen with a PowerPoint as I talk through the program. See how this works. All right, look at that. All right, so our department is Marine Transportation Department, and we have several different majors, actually 3 different majors. So our degree options are the 2 4-year programs. One is Marine Transportation Operations. That's one that George was talking about. Vessel Operations and Technology, which Tad's a junior in right now, will be graduating next year. And then we have a 2-year program, which is an associate's degree, and we call it the Small Vessel Operations program. Although maybe small vessels isn't the best term because the vessels that they'll be operating are actually quite large. So each program not only gives you the degree, but it also qualifies you for a different license. And that's important to understand as you make decisions about what major you want to follow. So Marine Transportation Operations, again, this is a 4-year program. It is required that you be in the Regiment of Midshipmen. And upon graduation, and actually part of graduation requirement, is that you take and pass the U.S. Coast Guard examinations for third mate oceans, unlimited tonnage. So these are licensed officers that will begin their careers typically as the third mate on a commercial ocean-going vessel. These are the big ships that kind of ply the oceans, bringing all kinds of product across from continent to continent. The third mate license, so everyone would start off as a third mate. It's a fairly structured program of licensing. After about a year of sea time, so that's probably 2 or 3 years of work, you can move up to a second mate, again, another year or so of sea time to move up to the chief mate, and then eventually to master of a vessel or captain of a big ship. So it is a kind of a mentoring or natural apprenticeship program to go from the mate's position, kind of that entry level third mate, all the way up to master. I will say that any one of the mate's positions, so when a student graduates from Maine Maritime and steps onto the deck of a ship and then up into the bridge as a third mate, when they're on watch, they are the one that's running the ship. Nobody else is up there with them except probably a able seaman to help out. So they're actually conning the vessel, what we call in control of the vessel during that time period. The second four-year major is Vessel Operations and Technology. And in this major, the regiment is optional, so it's not a requirement. And students will graduate with the four-year program. Now, the license is not dependent on the degree, although everyone that's in this major is really focused on getting their license. So they'll take their test right after graduation. And depending on what type of vessels they've been serving on during their school time and maybe outside of school time, they'll graduate with a U.S. Coast Guard 500-ton mate's license or a 1,600-ton mate license. And that license might be restricted to near coastal waters, which is along our coastlines out to 200 nautical miles, which is called our EEZ, or Exclusive Economic Zone. Or if they get the oceans license, again, this is somewhat dependent on what kind of sea time they get in their experience, they can sail internationally. The system here with the mates program, a little bit different than a third mate, where these graduates will step onto what we call a work boat type of vessel. These can be tugboats or small freight boats, fishing boats, ferry boats. There's all different types of vessels that fall into this category of tonnage. And they'll probably start off as a second or first mate on the boat. A lot of these boats only operate with a captain or master and one mate or two mates. So it's not as defined as the unlimited program in terms of their work. So pretty quickly, they're moving right up. And just like the third mate, when they step onto their vessel for the first time, when they stand watch, they're the one that's actually operating the ship. The last major we have in this program is called Small Vessel Operations. It's a 2-year associate's program, and there's a 200-ton mate near coastal license. So again, this is in our 200-mile limit and a 200-ton vessel. So the credentials associated with the different degrees, it's pretty interesting. When I first was licensed, it was much simpler. Today we've got multiple regulatory agencies that we have to have accreditation on our licenses in order to sail. So primary is the U.S. Coast Guard license, and that defines the route, which is, again, near coastal oceans. The tonnage, and that's based on what type of vessels you're getting your experience on. So for the MTO students, their experience is going to be on high tonnage vessels or unlimited tonnage vessels. The VOT and SVO program are probably going to be getting their experience on vessels over 100 gross tons, possibly 50 to 100 gross tons, depending on what their goals are. And propulsion, unlimited is all under power, but the VOT program has an option of getting a endorsement on the license for auxiliary sales. So somebody had mentioned an interest in schooners, and this would be one of the endorsements you would need in order to be working as a mate or master on a tall ship. We do get certification from the FCC, or the Federal Communications Commission, and that's in the GMDSS, Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. So it's actually a suite of different communication systems, everything from satellite communications to high frequency single sideband and VHF. The IMO, the International Maritime Organization, also now regulates or requires certification on our licenses. And this is mostly called STCW, as you can see on the screen there, Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers. We can't sail internationally without these certificates. So as a mariner now, our licenses are quite complex. They have our route, they've got our tonnage, and they have the international requirements for what we can and cannot do with our licenses. The academic program here at the school, it's really geared toward being a mariner. So the academic program is fairly structured. There are options for some electives, but most of the courses, because of the requirements of licensing, really demand that they follow this academic plan. We've got 2 different academic semesters each year, 14 weeks long, and then a week of final exams. We don't get too many vacations because we try to leave a lot of the time open in the summer for field experience. The MTO students are going to have a freshman cruise of 70 days, and that's on our training ship, the State of Maine. After their sophomore year, they cadet ship for 90 days, and this is a placement onto a commercial merchant ship. Could be anywhere in the world, and they'll be flown to that location, get aboard the ship, and spend their 90 days as a cadet, working under the guidance of a mate or the master. And then they come back for their junior cruise after junior year, another 70 days on our training ship. This time on the training ship, they're actually in command under the guidance of our professional crew on the State of Maine. The VOT students have 3 co-ops. This is for the 4-year program. So each summer after their freshman, sophomore, and junior years, they're required to go on a 60-day field experience. The field experience, we really encourage 90 days because it will help with their sea time. So again, the number of sea days that you accumulate allows you to sit for different licenses. So although the academic part of it is a 60-day requirement, we do recommend the 90 days. And we also recommend that students try different types of experiences. So maybe a tugboat experience for one summer, maybe a small passenger ferry or other type of workboat, or possibly a tall ship, to kind of mix it up a little bit. The SVO program, they just have the 2 years. So in between the 2 years, they have the 1 field experience or co-op, which is, again, 60 days required. We encourage the 90 days. As a matter of fact, for the SVO students to sit for their license exam, they need 120 days. So often the SVO student will finish their 2 years, then be required to go and serve on a vessel for another 30 to 60 days before they can actually earn their license. Now they've taken the test while they're at Maine Maritime Academy. So as soon as they accumulate the appropriate number of sea days, the license is then available to them. So let me turn it over to Tad for a minute and talk about your experience with summer programs.
Yeah. So this past summer, I spent my summer up in the Bering Sea on a 200-foot fishing boat. So got a lot of sea time there, and I'm on track to get my 1,600-ton ocean license. And it actually paid for my school cash, which is pretty cool. The summer before that, I was working up in Bar Harbor on the whale watching passenger vessels. So those are a little under, they're at 99 tons, but they fit the requirement for the co-ops. And I was able to get my sea time, and because of the structure of the course with the 200-ton license, I was able to pass my exams, and I have my 200-ton license at this time. And I've actually got jobs doing boat deliveries up and down the East Coast while I've been in school as a mate. So it's a pretty cool way to make some extra cash here on breaks and whatnot. And yeah, I've got a 3rd one coming up, hoping to get on a tugboat out of Texas. But of course, with all this coronavirus stuff, crew changes aren't really, everything's all up in the air. So we'll all just see. But I think that about does it.
All right, thanks, Ted. George, how about your 3 different summers, or I guess 2 at this point, right?
Yeah, so I've had 2 different summers. My freshman cruise 2 years ago, we took the State of Maine out. Being a freshman, not really having much experience, trying to figure everything else out, as well as going to sea for the first time. So that was turned out to be like 74 days at sea. Left Castine, went to New York, got some fuel, and then shot across the Atlantic over to Europe, and spent most of the time over in Europe, up in Spain, Rotterdam, went down to Portugal, over to Italy, and then back to Spain. So that was that 70 days. This past summer, I spent 94 days aboard a crude oil tanker, the ship actually that's behind me. she was 1,000 feet long with a 170-foot beam. Our max draft was 62 feet. So there's 62 feet of the vessel that's sitting below the water. So it's a decent amount of it. Our tonnage, Cat Miller was talking about it earlier. Tonnage was right about 215,000 tons, fully loaded, 1.3 million barrels of crude oil. Loaded that up in Valdez, shot down to Long Beach, California, and then back up to Cherry Point, Washington. And I did that for 94 days. Now this coming summer, if it happens, trying to figure that one out right now, for junior crews going back out on the training ship. Trying to see if it's going to happen. Hopefully it does, but everything is up in the air. So that'll be in a fun, interesting times. Trying to, one, be back on the ship, getting hopefully some more experience under my belt with celestial navigation. That's probably one of the trickier subjects at the school for the deck department. Just things you thought that you would never use again, trigonometry and all the stuff that you think you're not going to use in high school all over again comes right on back. And you're like, okay, well, let's figure this stuff out again. But definitely enjoy it.
All right, thanks, George. So just take a minute here and go a few slides to let you see what types of vessels our students are working on and what this tonnage thing is all about. So the two vessels that are up there right now are both probably operated by folks that are in our vessel operations and technology program. So these are 1,600-ton licenses, or even the 500-ton license. The top left there is what's called the integrated tug and barge, or articulated tug and barge. So it's actually two vessels that are linked together rigidly. It looks like a little ship, but it's a tugboat that's kind of driven right into the notch of a barge that was built specifically for that tug. And it's really the way that we're moving a lot of product coastally. So this is some type of a bulk barge. They are kind of loaded with some type of product, but an incredibly efficient way to move goods around the coastal areas or around our country. So not really going across oceans, but up and down the coast or up and down our inland rivers. Down the bottom of this picture is a supply vessel that supplies, typically you're going to find them supplying the oil field, but these vessels have all different types of use, and we're starting to see some now converted for working with offshore wind. And again, both of these are kind of less than 1,600 tons. These vessels are deep sea vessels. So the one on the upper left is probably one that very similar to what George was on. So this is a ocean-going tank ship. It's actually a massive tank ship. And then a bulk carrier down in the lower right-hand corner. So these are for the unlimited licensed majors. We've got a drill ship up in the top here, and down in the bottom, a container ship. And the container ships, actually the container itself changed the merchant mariner's life pretty dramatically when we went from bulk cargo. So everything used to be palletized and moved off and on ships by cranes with longshoremen and stevedores. And now it's all simplified with the container. So probably about 90 or 95% of the goods that you get, whether it's food that you're eating or clothes that you're wearing or cars that you're driving, are coming by some form of sea transportation. Pretty incredible. Up on the top here, the big MSC ship is what we call a ro-ro, or a roll-on, roll-off. So this is, they're actually driving cars. So almost all the new cars end up on one of these ships at one time. Also an unlimited vessel, ocean going. They'll put tractor trailer trucks, farm equipment, woods, forestry equipment on board these vessels. So they drive them on and drive them off. In the lower part of the screen here is it's definitely a freight boat, but smaller, as you can see. And this may fit into the qualifications for the 1,600-ton license. So there's actually a co-op that a lot of our VOT students enjoy, which is called Coastal Transportation up in the Northwest, that has some vessels around this side so that they're able to operate and get some excellent experience on. Workboats, again, this is a tugboat, so a harbor tug up in the upper left-hand corner. So these vessels rarely leave the harbor, and they're pushing big ocean-going ships around into the dock and helping with departure. In the lower part, passenger ferry boat. This is in the Northwest also, but these are all around the country, and growing number of opportunities for our graduates in the passenger ferry business. Cruise ship, well, this has been in the news a lot lately, but hopefully in the near future, this will rebound. But big cruise ship up top. These ships are excellent to work on. They've got the state-of-the-art equipment in the bridge and great tonnage. These are huge vessels now. In the lower part, this is a real growth industry right now, is the small cruise ship industry with passengers capacity up to about 200, but typically in the 100 to 150 range. And this is definitely a less than 1,600 ton vessel, probably in the closer to 200 ton range, but providing a lot of work again for our graduates. And we'll find these up and down both our coasts and on the inland rivers. So this is my last slide. I'll leave it here and see if we can take some questions too. But this is our schooner, the schooner Bowdoin. The Bowdoin was built in 1921. We sail her regularly. So every afternoon we have a program called Supplemental Seamanship in the fall from 1600 or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., 1800, where all these vessels that you see are available to our students. So we've got the sailing team out there. We have small sailboats that are able for students to take out. A bunch of students run the schooner. This is a great opportunity that's optional, but gives our students a chance to what we call mess around in boats, which is one of the best ways to learn ship handling and how to interact with other vessels. So it's pretty popular. On the weekends, this continues with weekend trips on the Bowdoin. Every weekend that boat goes out and does some type of short little expedition around the coast of Maine. Pretty cool. Do we have any questions coming in? No? Okay.
Captain Miller, can you talk about what you do during the summer?
Sure. I do. One of the things I enjoy is keeping up on my license. So I continue to ship out. In the past, well, I guess about the same amount of time I've been working with Maine Maritime and sailing with a company called Sea Education Association. They have 2 big tall ships. These are square ring vessels, ocean going. And we have sailed across the Atlantic numerous times. And most recently, I've been sailing in the Pacific from Honolulu to American Samoa. But that vessel sails from New Zealand to Tahiti to Hawaii, and then the trip I do, Hawaii to American Samoa in the summertime. It's a research vessel and sailing ship. So we combine ocean research with tall ship sailing. And the students on board are college students, actually, from all over the country. It's great work, and we're doing a kind of an important scientific service for a bunch of different colleges underway. It's great work. I've also been able to work over our Christmas break. And as you know, Tad was saying, it's nice to be able to pick up a little extra work, keep the experience, and kind of nice to be in warm weather during our Maine winter. So it's nice for me to be doing that. Also just keeps me current on what's happening in the industry. I have to keep my license right up to date. Clearing customs in a different country seems to change year to year. And all this is great experience to bring back to the classroom, and I do like to share it there. George had mentioned some of the challenges of celestial navigation, which is one of the classes I teach. And when we are underway on the ship, when I'm operating as master, we do daily practice celestial navigation. So it's pretty rewarding to use the sun, stars, and planets for figuring out where we are. It still works, very low tech, but very, very accurate. So pretty cool and fun.
Sir, can you talk a little bit about the Great Lakes? We've had a lot of questions come through about opportunities in the Great Lakes and things of that nature.
Yeah, we've had a number of graduates that have done co-ops, actually cadet shipping up in the Great Lakes. Those that have done the cadet shipping program, this is after their sophomore year in the Great Lakes, have often gone to work in the Great Lakes after graduation. So this is an unlimited licensed ship, as well as workboats up in the Great Lakes. But it's, I guess it doesn't seem as popular to our students. Most students are focused on kind of the deep sea oceans, but the Great Lakes provide a great opportunity for shipping. And the challenges there are a little bit different. There's more traffic, there's more land to interact with, different type of weather to be watching. So it is an excellent opportunity for both work and experience. It's also kind of a fast track to moving up. So I would say 80 to 90% of the students who graduated and have gone to work in the Great Lakes have pretty quickly moved up the ranks from third to chief mate in about as short a period of time as possible. Just because you have a sea time and gain that license doesn't mean that you automatically get the job. There has to be an opening. On the Great Lakes, that seems to be the case more times than not, that as students are gaining their, graduates are gaining their sea time, they're moving right up in terms of responsibility. There's also a fair number of opportunities on our western rivers or inland rivers. This is probably geared more toward VOT students, but the inland rivers, the Mississippi in particular, Columbia River in the Northwest, there's a lot of commerce on these rivers, and there's an unbelievable opportunity for work. Again, this doesn't seem to be of high interest for our students right now, but the work is there. It's good work, it's good money. And you've probably seen pictures of the push boats, actually, they're still called tugboats, but pushing multiple barges up and down the rivers. So a couple of companies are oftentimes inquiring about our graduates and seeing what the availability is for these folks to come on board. I think right now, right in the western rivers, there's something like over 80% of the captains and pilots, these are the two people that would be in the wheelhouse of those vessels, are nearing retirement age. So there's bound to be a big opportunity for growth in that industry.
So another question, sir, was about.
I'll just mention, since we have
Oops, sorry, sir. Another question was about cadet shipping potentially with military type vessels. I don't know if you want to talk about MSC opportunities, things of that nature.
Sure, MSC, so it's Maritime Sea Lift Command is actually it's a private company that supplies exclusively to the armed forces, so mostly the Navy. So they're doing underway fueling of ships and provisioning of ships, so the Navy ships don't have to go into port. There's a lot of opportunity there. Cadet shipping will usually put several cadets onto one MSC ship. They enjoy having our cadets on board, and they also have employed many of our cadets right now. Matter of fact, I'm in touch with several of our graduates. These are graduates from a few years ago that currently on an MSC ship in the Middle East, actually, and there's one that just wrote to me from Guam. So interesting, they're kind of confined to the ship and waiting to get heads up on when they can get off. So they're, like George and Tad have mentioned, that crew changes right now are kind of a subject with the coronavirus. So this graduate is on board the vessel, and they're in Guam, ready to depart. She's looking for her next relief, but at this point, doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Good opportunities on the MSC ships. I was going to mention about the boat in there, in the picture. So that boat was built in 1921, so almost 100 years old at this point. And she's been refit very recently, so it's in many ways like a new vessel, but she was built for Arctic exploration. And next summer, 2021, we have plans to get the boat back up to the Arctic. So since she's been at Maine Maritime, she's already been to the Arctic 3 times. One of those times I was able to sail her north. This was in 2008. That's the last time she was in the Arctic. But we went up the Labrador Sea, up into Baffin Bay, and well past Disco Island, which is on the Greenland coast, amongst the icebergs, and a pretty awesome trip. And that trip will be exclusively for our Maine Maritime students that are interested in taking that voyage.
Well, sir, thank you very much. We're just hitting 1 o'clock, so you definitely nailed the time. I know that you could talk all day about MTO, VOT, and sailing, so we do appreciate it. For the students, if you still have more questions, we will have a whole question and answer session later on this evening at 7:30 Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time. So you can always come back and ask us some more questions about MTO. Sir, thank you very much. If you can stop sharing your screen, I will get ready to help our marine engineers with their presentation.
All right. And Kelly, if you could just make sure that my email address is available to anybody, I'm happy to answer questions via email at any time.
Great. Thank you, sir.
All right. Good talking to everybody.
Have a great day. Thank you so much
All right.
for all your help.
Thanks, Tad and George.